Good morning. It's Thursday, the 26th of October 2023. And on this episode, we're going to be exploring the latest from the Wave release of Power Platform and Dynamics 365. We've allowed the dust to settle, and we're going to explore some of the important pieces that have come out from that wave, and all of that to come on today's Digital Lounge. Welcome. So joining me today, we've got Ollie Sinclair, the man who we just can't keep him off this show. And new to the show this time, I think, Adam, it's your first time on Digital Lounge?
Second one.
Second time, yes. So no newcomers this week. No newcomers this week. So welcome both. Before we get started, I know you've both been busy at sunning yourself on the beach of the South Coast, haven't you? All this beautiful weather we're having.
Yes, yeah, we have. Yeah, so last week was one of the sort of the community events that's held every year, called the South Coast Summit. It's where a lot of people get together and really have a chance for people to learn a little bit more about the Power Platform and all the Microsoft technologies from MVPs and key elements in the business. So it's a big old get together, and we decided to go en masse with the Crimson guys to make a presence and also help out, which is really, really good.
Fantastic. Well, if any of you are there, I'm sure you'd have seen the stand. If not the stand, the lanyards. They're all Crimson lanyards, and I think we had a giveaway of an Apple Watch. Shouldn't be saying that word on a show about Microsoft, but
Oh, I think we've lost Mark, which is a bit of a shocker. But yes, no, we did have a competition, didn't we, Adam, about an Apple Watch, and it was about a game. So we bought a tablet with us with a Power Platform game where people could touch the screen and get a high score. And I think we gave that away to a youngster, I believe, Adam.
It was indeed. Yeah, I mean, we were really trying to demonstrate and use the technology of Power Apps in our stand, and I think it's fair to say it was quite popular, wasn't it? The number of people that came over and kind of engaged with us on the stand to play the game was higher than I expected.
Yeah, it was. It really was. That was it was really good to see, and it was great for for us to engage with that community. It's always nice to have face-to-face these days, so it was really, really good. We also did a couple of sessions, so a couple of our colleagues, Lindsay and Kaylee, did a session around going from sort of an end user to a partner, and that transition of making good consultants. That was really engaging. And I also did one on my favorite subject, which is process mining, which was really, really good.
And I mean, having been to the session on process mining, and of course I'm going to be biased, but the potential of the tool is so great. I mean, there's always a requirement for good data, and we all know the challenge around getting to that point. But once you're there, the power of the tool to come up with predictions and suggestions about process, it's a completely different way of thinking about how we map out processes, isn't it?
It really is.
We go from people sat in a room describing it to data showing us what the process actually is.
Yeah, that's right. And it's it's amazing how quickly these sort of products and technologies seem to just AI seems to be embedded in absolutely everything, and this is just another one of those examples where Microsoft are plugging this stuff, and it seems to be really, really useful. And I can totally see, the value in businesses adopting some of this stuff, which kind of takes us to probably the keynote of the of the South Coast Summit. Adam, how did you find it? It was Don Osaka who is very much an AI troublemaker. How did you find the keynote?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. It's interesting how often the words AI or Copilot were used throughout that weekend. But what was interesting to me was, and I think I might have fallen into the same trap almost as many others, is I considered Copilot singular as a thing. And actually, the way that it was presented at the summit was actually we should think of it as a collection of co-pilots. So actually, in future, we might have a co-pilot for Excel, we might have a co-pilot for PowerPoint, we might have a co-pilot for Power Automate in our particular case, or Power Apps. And I think that the number that was thrown around was 160 something different ones.
That's right. Yeah, 155. Oh, here we go. Here's Mark back. Oh, you're on mute. But no, you're dead right, Adam. It's an interesting one where people do ban the Copilot and they just think, well, potentially it's just this one big product, but actually it's kind of a, it's littered throughout, all of the technology sets. And as you said, there's hundreds of Copilots that are very, defined to do specific things, all engaging, ultimately in the large language model of GPT, but with specific prompt engineering to do a specific set of tasks that are appropriate for that application or that technology. And it's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Apologies, my computer crashed live.
It's the troubles of live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies. So I'll just interject because we're talking about the giving away an Apple Watch, and a young lad won in the end on a game that we'd created, and yeah, it was congratulations to him. I know we shared that on LinkedIn. Guys, you've obviously been talking while I was scrabbling around to get this computer up and running. Where did we get to? Did you start to talk about some of the changes to the new Wave release? I'm guessing
we were just touching on Donasaka and AI, and how much Copilot is really going to be embedded into everything. So probably is a good shift into let's talk about the Wave release.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so as I mentioned at the top of the show, the dust is starting to settle on the Wave release. What are you seeing as the most impactful changes with this release then? If I can come to you, Ollie, first of all.
Yeah, so on the same lines, there is some real big advancements in the Copilot element of the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And I think that's quite evident in this Wave release. That there is a lot of advancements on, some of this stuff coming generally available and really making an impact into everything. So with Copilot, we've talked about Copilot quite a lot, certainly in this podcast and others. Where you see the value is AI's been around for ages, automation's been around for ages, but having the ability to do cognitive functions and having this sort of assistant as an end user of the platform is amazing, but also as a builder, as a citizen developer of the platform. So it's kind of you get two benefits from Copilot. One, enabling you to very quickly create applications, but also at the same time embeds a Copilot into that application once it's been built to then reach out to other data sources and do sort of those elements. So the Power Automate Copilot has come in, the Process Advisor Copilot's come in, Power Apps Maker and Power Apps Component has come in. So there's lots and lots of Copilots that are really starting to be embedded in the platform and readily available for people to use.
I think, Adam, we talked when we were preparing this show about Copilot fatigue, and actually there is, as Ollie's just illustrated there, I suppose, that there isn't just one Copilot, is there? Could you just give us a sense of your feelings about Copilot at the moment, and just give also for the audience as well, how many types of Copilots are there?
Yeah, I mean, myself and Ollie did delve into that a little bit whilst we were waiting to join back in. But yeah, I mean, it's the thing with it is it will be the future of technology, and I think we we have to accept that we need to embrace it now and understand how it works. And I think the key bit for me with anything like this is, look, we look out there and we see what these tools do, and then we try and apply a practical use case to them. And one of the things that we're currently looking at is, we of course go out there and we build applications for people, and of course we want to start being able to do that with elements of Copilot. But in order to do that, we make ourselves aware of a set of design standards. So one member of our team is actually using a Copilot model, and they're training that model with our design standards documentation. So you ask the model, you ask a question, and it presents back an answer from our own documentation. And that's a really quick but powerful way that we can actually implement some of these tools and have a practical use.
I mean, that's really impressive, isn't it? And I think you're absolutely right. And we've talked about this a few times. Ollie, I know you've been on the show a few times talking about this around, we have got to embrace this. And I think there's all kinds of creativity in different fields at the moment with this. And I think we've just got to encourage our customers to embrace this too. There's a lot there about Copilot. Are there some other things, Ollie, that we should be also looking at that are maybe hidden a little bit more in the shadows? We know Microsoft are really pushing Copilot at the moment, but what else could we be missing?
Yeah, sure. So it was interesting. This is a good timed podcast, because we've had the BizApps launch event for the UK yesterday. And Charles Ormana, again, was stressing the fact that, yes, there's lots to happen in Copilot, but we are still focused on delivering enhancements to sort of other components and areas of the Power Platform and Dynamics 365, which is nice. It's really, really good. One of the ones that stands out for me certainly is the sort of what they sort of classify as accelerating the value by having cleaner data. So there is kind of going to be a bit of a data validation layer within the Dataverse, and they've started this with this wave release around email validation. So if you're typing in something saying, Ollie Sinclair at test.com, it's gonna know that that's not a valid sort of domain. So it sort of highlights a little area that just says that's not a real email address. Now that's really, really useful. And yes, there are ways that we do that through business logic validation that you can do, but that making sure that that there's clean data being entered in the system is one of the critical things that we've always suffered from. And it seems as though Microsoft are going for that idea of trying to automate that as much as possible and getting some sort of validation layer that sits within Dataverse. That's going to be really fun. Yeah.
And we again, we feel like I'm jumping back into the AI world, but we've said before that customers have really got to get their data in order to be able to take advantage of the power of AI. But it sounds like, Adam, that Microsoft are starting to give people a helping hand with some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the past, we've implemented third-party components within our applications to do exactly that. So email validation, phone number validation. In the past, we've gone with third parties, but Microsoft are now bringing forward a first-party or Microsoft-owned tool to allow us to do that within the platform out of the box. And that's what we see with a lot of things. We've seen that with document generation. We've seen that now with the email validation. But I think it's also important that we call out the new look and feel, because although it's not quite as exciting maybe as Copilot or the AI elements, it is a big change, and it is a change that affects all of our customers. So in this wave, we've of course got the little slider now at the top of the screen, which allows us to turn on a new look and feel. And actually, it makes quite a big difference to the overall experience of the application. And in the vast majority, it's positive. It's a refreshed look and feel. It's cleaner. But one of the things that we hadn't foreseen really was, because people can turn it on and off at will. Some people turn it on, some people turn it off. So from a support perspective, when we get calls in, we of course now have to ask, are you in the new world or are you in the old world?
Yeah, yeah.
Could have its
So
own complications. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really important. That I think the point that you're making there as well, Adam, that we can talk about all these grand things, and we know Microsoft are great at the big marketing machine, but it's often some of the smaller elements that have more impact in a more immediate sense. Are there any other areas, Ollie, that you're seeing customers being impacted with with the latest Wave release?
Yeah, well, I think the big one for me, in my sort of putting on my center of excellence governance sort of power platform head or hat, is around the default environment. Now, for ages, we've had the default environment being a bit of a wild west scenario. Certainly, when it comes to maybe not this is sort of the dataverse side, and actually, the default environment is kind of, as soon as you get license, you get access, and you're effectively a maker in this default environment. So everybody's a maker sort of thing. So it becomes a bit of a mess and very, very difficult to manage. So within this wave release, they finally understood that that's a bit of a nightmare for people to actually control and govern. So what they've done is actually being able to direct new users and makers into their own development environment, so which has its own guardrails and controls, but also it's a step away from everybody in this mess of an environment that's creating a load of stuff. That's going to be a really welcome change when that comes along. Certainly from the power platform governors out there, they're going to love that. So that's really good.
Okay, good stuff. I'm going to, for one last time, talk about Copilot, and then we'll we'll end the conversation on at least for this episode. But do you think, a big question here for both of you, and I'll start with Adam if I may, do you think customers are really going to be picking up the mantle when it comes to Copilot in 2024? Do you see the excitement amongst our customers with these tools that maybe that matches what you're seeing from Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a big question, but I think that it's a really small answer, and I think it's going to be yes. It's that there is so much potential in the tools. I think we would be unwise if we didn't adopt it now and start looking at those applications. And again, from our customers' point of view and from our point of view, building these applications, as we start to identify the practical usage of these tools, then we'll be able to demonstrate some of the benefits and some of the time savings of where they can be implemented.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
that?
think if you think about where this has already happened, Copilot still is new. It's still new. But having said that, 130,000 organizations have already experienced Copilot in Dynamics and Power Platform. So this is now, like, it's happening now. So what you've got to remember is, all of these organizations that are managing to utilize AI in the way in which, it's Copilot for your customers, so being able to get their answers quicker, Copilot for your employees, being able to manage and understand, what's going on quicker, and automating first. These guys are going to have the competitive advantage. So you need to be a part of that journey, because it's already happening. And for us, it's very much what Adam says. We need to consider the Copilot way of business applications in everything we think about for our customers, because that is absolutely where it's going. So it's going to be really interesting these next couple of years, and it's how we utilize those elements around the generation of content, the spark of creativity that you can get from assisted AI, the cognitive automation. So AI is all around that cognitive side and making the experience better for customers. That's absolutely what's going to happen.
And I think there's clearly a lot of catching up organisations will need to do around their policies around usage of AI. And I know that the digital leadership report, which will be coming out early November, will talk a lot about that, and no doubt we'll be talking about that in the show later. But I'm going to draw a line under Copilot for now. And talk about something that is really important to many people, which is accessibility. And Adam, I understand that the new Wave release has tried to take into account accessibility in new ways, particularly around Power Pages, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're now moving into a world where Power Pages supports Bootstrap version 5, and this does address a number of things that we've had from our customers, actually, where we're designing applications, and particularly around accessibility standards. And so when we're building applications, we of course need to consider accessibility. But when you start getting into the different standards that are out there, it's actually quite complicated, and it's actually quite detailed in order to meet a particular standard. But what actually, going back to the summit, one of the sessions I attended was around accessibility, and even just around when we do Teams meetings, when we're in conversations, having things like captions on, having the ability for people to read the words on the screen was a really simple way that we can implement additional accessibility considerations. And again, we go back to the Power Pages element. We always need to be aware of accessibility considerations when we're building applications, and not just make it almost, okay, we've built it now, let's now think about accessibility. It needs to be, right, we're building, what are our considerations? And I really think with the Power Pages element, but also with some of the new form controls that are being released as well, that really helps us take a step forward in terms of meeting some of those standards.
Yeah, it really does. I think, you know, with Power Platform moving to Bootstrap 5, that's going to give you the ability to you know, really enhance your accessibility elements. So, you know, one of the big standards, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, so WCAG, they've got versions in which, when you're looking at Bootstrap 5, you know, things like structural markup or your interactive components, you know, the drop down, the dialog menus, the drop downs, the tooltips, etc. You know, you can use those components to be understandable by assistive technology, so like screen readers and things like that. So using Bootstrap 5 and that change which is coming in this Wave release is really going to help web developers be able to make that accessibility change within their websites. So that's really, really good.
Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that may have gone away in the latest release. Some people don't like change, of course, and I suppose it's addressing what has been removed, and you know, are there good reasons why that's the case? Ollie, if I can turn to you perhaps first on that.
Yeah, so one of the big ones is the sort of moving away or the sort of the decommissioning of the custom app. So the app that used to be there back in the day when we were on business applications, where you just had one application for CRM, and you would access it that way. That's kind of going away, and it's been gone. You know, most businesses will have moved away from that, and their application architecture would be far more sort of business function related. But there may be some still people using the old sort of custom application, and for a lot of reasons, you know, UI accessibility, fluid controls. There's lots of reasons why they're kind of decommissioning that, and it's kind of about time. So that one's it'll be an interesting one, but hopefully that will be welcome.
Okay, and Adam, is there anything else that you've noticed that's quietly gone away?
I mean, I think that there's always a stream of things that kind of come onto the roadmap, get delivered, and then get ultimately removed. I think one of the things for me is more on the development side, around some of the connectors that we use. So whenever we build applications, we always have an element of automation or integration. And throughout the years, there's been a number of Dynamics or Dataverse type connectors, particularly around the Power Automate technology set. And we're finally now getting to a single connector that will eventually have all of the functionality in one place. At the moment, we've got 3, and so we want to get back down to just 1. One of them has been deprecated, and we've finally got a date. We'll be getting a date of when it will be removed. But to go back down from 3 to 2 and then to 1, that's an important step for us, because in terms of supportability and consistency of design, that helps us massively.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think let's just step back and think about what we can look forward to in 2024. As we've discussed previously on the show, a wave release doesn't mean everything lands all at once. Things are coming over a course of a number of months. So are there some things that our customers should be thinking about at the moment that are perhaps on the horizon?
Yeah,
Sorry, Ali,
I
I'll
think
come
so.
to you on that.
That's all right. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about that's coming down this roadmap. I think, without mentioning again, where we see AI assisted automation, let's not call it Copilot, but assisted automation, and it's going to be fundamental for combining data together. So if you think about a traditional journey, maybe a contact center agent, having at their fingertips the ability not only to understand the data or the context of the data they're currently sat with, but being able to very quickly ask questions to your little expert that can go away and find out more information from creditable sources to enhance the context of what you're trying to do is going to be absolutely fantastic. So a lot of that's going to be really, really good. I think some enhancements in an AI builder as well. So AI builder is the low code, no code friendly version of cognitive services. We're seeing some advances there within sort of the text to speaks coming into AI builder as well. That's going to be fantastic. And generally speaking, I think getting closer to your data is going to be the key. One tiny little thing which was interesting to see yesterday was that you were actually getting inbuilt within the Power Platform is DocuSign. So whether that's good or not depends on whether you've actually signed up for DocuSign or are using another sort of third party that does the same thing. But again, they're getting closer to some of these sort of areas of where you've got an ISV or got a bit of functionality, and getting the Power Platform being able to use that without having to do integration, which is nice.
Wonderful. Anything else that you've spotted, Adam, that you feel customers may need to give a little bit more attention to?
I think maybe just some of the roadmap and some of the presentations or blogs or things like that we produce, because I think it's an ever increasing list of items that get added to this roadmap, and I think it's really important that we look at each one and we assess now what the impact is going to be next year. As much as is reasonably possible. We don't always have all the information up front. Microsoft are very good at coming up with an idea, presenting it to us, and then we have to kind of forage around for the remainder of the information. But certainly some of those things, looking at them now, understanding how we're going to use them next year, I think that's a really key point for me.
Wonderful. Gents, I'll call time now, if that's okay. I think I appreciate your time as always. I know you're always in high demand from customers, so thank you very much for joining the show today. Right, so what we'll be doing next time, Thursday the 9th of November, is inviting one of our colleagues, Martin Gallagher, with Click Dimensions onto the show, and we'll be talking about their new product, which anybody in sales and marketing would be interested to see, particularly if you're a small, medium-sized business. A really interesting new product called Power Pack. So we'll be talking about that on the next show. As always, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, on LinkedIn, always leave your comments below. We'll always try and respond to those after the show. And like and subscribe if you're on YouTube as well. And don't forget, this is also an audio podcast. If you're not listening to it already in that way, please do so. It's a convenient way of catching up with everything that we enjoy talking about here on the show, particularly around people and technology and Microsoft, but also leave us a rating if you can on the podcast, so let other people know that it's a great show to listen to. And if you don't think it is, let us know what you'd like to hear on the show, and we're always looking to learn. So with that, I'll bid you goodwill, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time on the Digital Lounge. Thank you.